Righto, to the job that I have been dreading. So I got to take out the rear windscreen. Two reasons. One, you can't paint the car properly with the glass in. Just, it's not going to happen. Two, I got to do this repair here, and welding that close to a seal would be folly. So what do I do? Well, the book says, it's a good little read, removal of the back window and or weather strip from the inside of the car, loosen the weather strip edges, and then push out the window as a weather strip assembly. Good. Step two, place the window on a bench. Terrific. Okay, so that's the book's take on it. Now, I've heard of all sorts of stories. I've seen plenty of things. Oh, excuse me. As we get into forums, on the net, beg your pardon, on how to do this. And you can see I've tried the old footprint. Give a bit of a push, but in a nutshell, it's like this. That seal is 40 years old. A new one from Rare Spares is 150. A new windscreen is 650. And the bit I like, I had a quote for someone to come do it professionally, and the answer was $420. I won't name the company, and we're not going to guarantee that it won't break. Now, I've seen pictures on forums where guys, or a particular guy, pushed from the centre and the thing bent half an inch without breaking. But it wasn't an XC, it was a later model Falcon. But you know what, 150 bucks for a project this big, I'm going to cut it out. So what we'll do is, when they talk about removing the lip, they talk about pulling the lip down like this. See where my thumb tip is? If we cut that away, so cut this whole section out, there'll be nothing holding it in the car. And I reckon if we just even get the top part away, we'll be able to push the seal out. And when I've got it out, it'll give you a better view of how it goes. What I can tell everyone, or anyone that's watching this, which will be probably 3 people maybe, is that don't attempt to take the trim out. You'll just wreck it. The trim is part of the seal when it goes into the car. So don't take that out. You can remove it and clean it up and paint it when the whole thing's out, but don't attempt it while it's still fitted to the car. The whole thing, seal, window, and trim, comes out as an assembly. So I'll get on with a knife and start cutting away. Righto, that's taken 10 minutes. Here's some of the seal here. I know how well you can see that. Got my headlamp on, try that blue. There we go, might be a bit better. So you can see some of the seal there, and you can see how it sat. So that was the overlay bit there. Right, and so that's what's holding, effectively this section, is what's holding it into the car. That gone, there we go. So just a bit of gentle persuasion all the way down, and I used my boot again, but that's all good. So that was just so I didn't put any decent pressure with bare hands, because the last thing you want to do is shatter the glass while your bare hands are on it. I know it's safety glass, it shouldn't, but you know, better be safe than sorry than rip your hands to bits. So there we go. So 150 bucks down the tubes with the seal. But at the end of the day, the chances of this old seal, and we'll go and have a look at it from the outside so you can see point of case. Oh. The chances of getting that to reseal, well, good luck. You know, so I think the decision was a good one, to just go, you know what, it's 40 years old, have a look at the state of the outside of that. That's your sealing surface on your chassis or on your window frame, and you've got to recoup it. And yeah, I could clean it up and all the rest of it, but you know what, not worth the hassle. It's just not worth the hassle. Last thing you want is to do all the work on one of these cars and have the bloody thing leak. So I'm pretty happy with that, because I'm pretty stoked. So, all good. Time for a beer again. Righto. Didn't go and have that beer, but anyway. Got the window out, there it is. Obviously, no problems at all. It was virtually out when I last filmed. And of course now we get to see the C-pillar and what condition the car's in with respect to that. And we do have some rust hidden away there under the seal, but compared to a lot of other X series cars, it's ABCs, she's pretty good. She's pretty bloody good. So that's adjacent, that repair I've got to do anyway. So no real big deal. I'll probably cut this out down here and do a patch in here. I was looking on YouTube this morning, and well, the reason I'm doing this as well, and got a good welding tip. So I've cut these out in sharp edges. I will blend them, and when I make my template, it'll be not blended, radiused. So the guy's rationale, he was a professional welder, and like I said, I'm not, was that if you have a sharp edge like these are, you'll end up with a hot spot. So, and you don't want that. So, okay, cool. And looking at what he did on a similar sort of panel where it had an edge like this, that metal there is pretty good. So I'll use the same rationale. I'll cut it down here so I can just come straight back up and replace that. There is a double room behind that as well, which is, gee, inconvenient. Right at that point, which is probably why it rusted there, having the extra bit. And there's one of those rotten little spot welds right there. So it might be a little tricky getting that off, but I'm sure we'll get there. So just scraping some of the old goop off, and you can see just how good it is. So I'm pretty happy, pretty bloody happy. In fact, I'm even more happy because I just spoke to the panel beater that's going to be painting this car for me. So all good. Same with the other side. Obviously the water wants to settle at the bottom, makes sense. And just scrape some off here. This side has got a bit, but not as bad. So that, you can see some of the original filler. You know, they put filler all over these cars. It's amazing when you start pulling them apart. That's Bob out of factory. So I'll just clean that up, and I'll just rust convert that. It's really not worth. It hasn't gone through. I'll give it a really good clean up just to make sure. But you know what? That's just clean it up, rust convert it, put some primer on it, and that'll be good to go. So no, it's really happy with this. Hello, what have we just found there? There we go. There's a bit of a there's a little hole, tiny little. Okay, and it's around. There was some little, looks like a machined hole they've had there for some reason. That's interesting. That's random, isn't it? Oh, well, I'll clean up around that. That might still be all right as well, because it certainly hasn't gone through. I don't know if you can see that where my thumb is. I'm not sure, but anyway, all good. How we going, supervisors? All good? Hey? And a very close supervision I'm getting today, aren't I, teddy bears? All right, puppies. Spoke too soon. Bit of a grind out yesterday, and well, this free window's been out before. Probably for a while before I owned the car. So I've had the car 20 years. Like I said, it's 40 years old, and someone's done a bog, and looks like a an old bright, what do you call that? You know, oxy type welding, brazing, I think they call it. You can see the gold colour of it anyway. So very old school type fill repair of metal. Bit of a bugger this too, because you've got an interesting layer of skin here. So you've got overlaying, and I don't know if you can see where my fingernail is, but that's 2 layers of skin there. And then of course under here you've got that rib, aka what we saw on the other side. So whoever did the repair back in the day probably didn't do too bad a job, considering, well, it's well over 20 years old. It was bogged, so they've converted it. And really, again, this car spent 10 years in North Queensland on the coast, and which didn't do it any favours at all. And considering, I guess, what is the normal stand for XC corrosion, pretty minimal. Same on the other side, like I said before. That wasn't repaired, so that's just grown since obviously that's been done. So now it's got to work out what I'm going to do with it, and I really didn't want to be doing an angle, bit beyond my sort of expertise, but yesterday I went and bought myself an anvil from one of the local tool suppliers, a little 15 kilo anvil over there. Might be able to bend something up or mimic that, but what I am thinking loosely is that this offcut, this sill that I bought, and get it down. Oh, she's a bit heavy. I'll get it down in a minute. It might have, particularly here, that angle might be good enough to use. I might be able to get a section off this that won't need much manipulation. I'm sort of thinking it might be here. Cut a section of this out, and I might be able to get away with it. Although we've got a Z here, so we haven't just got one, we've got 2. And might be that I cut a piece of this out, cut that off there, and that will give me a Z there. So I'll probably do that. So what I'll do first thing, I was thinking, you know, try and save this bit to save the angle, just cut it off at the apex or the bend, I beg your pardon, but I don't think that's going to work. So I'll bite the bullet, I'll get the air hacksaw out, and we'll go down, inclusive of the doubler around there, and I just won't replace the doubler for that section, whatever. So we'll cut, probably need to go up to a good metal, so I'll come down and cut it out to here. And the other thing is we've got a separation point here as well, so we've got another rib coming up. So I'm going to have to, there's a spot weld there. I'll try and break these spot welds up, cut this down so it's just not oh, record. Okay. So, just thought I took a video and talked to myself for 10 minutes. That went well. I didn't answer back, but so I've cut out the section. And although it's not as pretty metal as I would like, as prettier metal or whatever you want to say, I'm not going to go any further because it gets multi-layers of metal under here. We've got good enough steel from here on. You can see the underlayer piece where this was spot welded over, then it was stepped here. And so what I'm going to do is clean these up. That's the old spot welds, which I broke this time with the die grinder. And again, just a little super cheap version, Black Ridge, whatever it's called. Bit of copper under here, and I'll fill these little holes up with a weld, grind them flat, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm using the sill that I never used because it didn't have all the pieces on it or wasn't a full extrusion. So I kept it as scrap, nice bit of scrap, and I can make a good enough template out of that. So I was going to panel beat this flat. Well, like I said, it's multi-layer of metal, so they overlaid these cars, spot weld them together, and then you know, sealed them up. In fact, the book says in the body panel area you'll need a lot of slabs, black celastic. So that's just how they were made. So anyway, I'll panel beat this flat, scribe it out, and we'll cut another version of this out of this and weld it in. Cheers. Yep, record it. Okay. So I got a piece of copper. Looks all messy, doesn't it? Anyway, piece of copper clamped underneath the frame here, and it's going to backfill these holes that I took out before, because I want solid metal to attach my piece to. Here's my piece. A bit rough cut, but it'll be all right. Just thought I'd mention the safety gear. Bought this yesterday. I'm a fool. I should have bought this years ago. 39 bucks. Where did I get that? Total Tools. Total Tools? Yeah, Total Tools. Probably can get cheaper online. I don't know, but a Lincoln welding jacket. I've burnt that many holes through that many jumpers for the sake of 40 bucks. Idiot. So recommend you do that. I should have done it years ago. So anyway, nothing my foolishness. We'll fill these in, grind that up, and see if we can patch this in before the afternoon's out. Okay, so now I've got access to this better without the boot on, and I'll get this down too. So I think I might have described before, I did a mod to the car, which I was really happy with. These gas struts obviously are not standard on an XC Falcon. They had spring bars, torsion bars, which clipped in through that little bit of metal there, and I got rid of them because this thing had LPG. So they actually have a VS Commodore. I remember doing it years ago, measuring it up, and it works fine. Also have an electric solenoid in the boot and a button, which I found, I think, off a ZH Fairlane. But anyway, so pretty cool mod. Hit the button, boot opens up like a modern car. So, you know when you go to the hardware shop and you see these little cheapy racks of stuff for sale, you know, 10 bucks, 5 bucks. One of the things I picked up moons ago was this magnet, and I've just found a use for it. So what I want to do is I want to backfill in here. How do I do that? Well, I want to use my copper plate, because that's good for backfilling against, because well bone here to that. And the magnet, I've already trialled it, holds it in position, so we can stick it in under. Magnet holds it there, and we've got our copper heat sink that we can backfill to. So what I'll do now is to get in and clean this up. Now I've got better access, and fix all the rest of that up. Alright, well, we're going to call this. So the bits that are left, like little ribs here and all the rest of it, that's just called bog. We've gone from that piece of, well, that's what was left, and that's where it sat, to that. And that'll do. So I'm just going to wax and grease remover this, clean it up, and hit these spots here, which we've left some old surface corrosion, hit that with rust converter, and then I'll run some kill rust primer over the top of it. And then when it comes time to paint the car, before I do that, I'll run some bog and smooth it over, and it'll be fine. And I guess point of case of that is in one of the old bikes that I've done this a while ago, and there's a tremendous amount of bog in this side panel. Wasn't too much in the tank, she came up all right. There's a tremendous amount of bog in here in sculpting this, and I've done another bike that's out in the shed, but this as well, this had a lot of bog in the side of it. A good mate of mine taught me how to get this right and reshape things, even to the point of re-sculpting all this, because this is quite badly damaged. So, you know, all cars have filler, like I said. This car came out of the factory with filler, and you know, at the end of the day, we've got new metal in here, and it's a lot stronger, so I'm pretty happy with that. So then we'll go over and do the other side. Cheers. So it's been a long time between drinks yet again, but life gets in the way of all good projects. So the other side was done. That was the last thing I did. And you can see there's quite a significant weld line. You probably can't in this film, but whatever. So there's going to have to be a bit of bog in there, but it's all new metal. It's new metal weld, where it's all been primed with kill rust and rust treatment on the back side. So it's all new metal weld. It's not the prettiest job, but you know, you're going to have some filler, so it's as good as it's going to get in this car. Now this side's a bit interesting. There's been no bog to the right hand side, but you can see, probably see in that screen, there's some brazing that's been carried out in there. You've got that little rib in there. There really are sort of a bit of a loose cannon the way these things were put together. In this section here, you got a layer coming here, stops around about there where that brace just sort of joins it, and then you got another layer going up under that, and that ends right where my fingernail is, and then you got another layer going in under there, and it's thinner material than the rest of the car by the looks of it too. I'm not sure, I'd have to put the vernier on. Either way, so what I've decided to do is I'll cut it down with the air hacksaw down, even though there's some good metal in here, so it looks good on this side, but it's not on this side. And yeah, I could clean it up, and I have, convert it and go, but I'd rather remove all rust, which is what I did on the other side, and all the jobs I'm doing in this car. So, you know, hedge your bets. So I'll cut it down here, and just be careful about getting the saw going straight down to that apex there, and then using the saw to come back, because there's another layer of metal down there. We don't want to touch that, so I want to come down and just going down evenly and not going through there. A bit like when I took the bushes out of the springs. Same as down here, we'll go across and just come down to here for the time being. Probably use a little Dremel wheel to come down here, and I'll take it out there as well. I'll round these holes up, clean this area off. There's a little bit of rust port there. I'll cut this away a bit more as well. And the other reason I want to do that is from here on it starts curving. So from here, it's actually a flat line. So it's going to retain shape from here up, but from here, pretty much on that mark there down, you start getting the curve, probably about there, and it starts curving away. So I don't want to have to be folding metal that's, you know, a right angle here, but then got a curve down here. You need a press to do that, or more patience than I've got, so I'm not going to do that. But I can separate all this. There's a few spot welds in there. So there's one there. I think that's one there. I'll just use my die grinder to separate it rather than trying to use the drill in this messy metal. We'll cut it out and see what it looks like in a few minutes. Alright, a bit more progress. So I've cut out what I wanted to cut out, and I've made this little panel up. Now this will be one of two panels for this particular piece. As you can see, it'll line up nice, so if I just apply a little bit of pressure. And I don't care if it's a bit proud, because this metal off the sill is a little bit thicker than that. And I know that's a no-no, but it's my car, I'll do what I want. I think that'll come up just nice. So then I've just got to develop a piece along here. So I figured the way I'm going to tackle it, I've bent this up, ground out most of the braze, I end up grinding it away, and just manipulating this piece to come down. Just on and off, using the linisher. Got a basic shape that was oversized and ground it down to around about right, and that's going to be pretty bloody good, that. Not too bad. So now I've still got to get that out. So I've still got to, I'll fill them in and grind that flat. That's nice clean metal, and then I'll tack this in place and see how it looks, and if it looks right, I'll grind it and finish that bit, and then we'll cut this piece up, and lovely that. Bit of bad news, not too bad, but not great. I found there's a bit of corrosion in there, and you can see, you probably can't see, but you can actually get the screwdriver through. So this is just more of that seam seal filler that came from factory. So I need to get the wire brush in there, dig it out, try and take the indicators back out, and clean all along here, and just make sure that I've got nothing too untoward, and clean it up. I don't know if I'll have to. I think it's going to be too hard, to be frank, to cut that out and cut that out. It's just a join. So I'll just clean it up, convert it, spot it if I think, and reseal it, I guess. Kill rust it, I don't know. It's the old thing, how long's a piece of string? Because I've already taken that off, and that's actually new plate there. That's new plate there. You can see the weld line on it, so I might be overreacting, tend to. But there's a little hole there, a bit of MIG wire left over from last time, so I'll give that a good clean up before I move forward once I get this done. Because once I get out of here, it's a matter of engine out. So we'll get there eventually. So this is the rosette style welding that I've done. Good. Yeah. Anyway, it's all good. I'll go back through and fill that up and grind that down. I just thought I'd show just the progress of piece number 2. So I cut it out oversize, and I've been slowly using the linisher. Those things are just a great bit of kit. Having one in your shed just makes life a lot easier. You can just grind metal away far more accurately. So you can see I've just put a pencil line there, so I'm pretty happy with the length. We'll need to take a little bit more off it, and the cutout, and I don't know if you can see that little line there, but we've got that about right, so that'll be good. And so I've just got a bit to grind off here where that line is, and then just a bit of finessing, maybe a bit of beating, just to make sure that the shape here might have to put a little bit of a curve in it. We'll have a look at that, but I might be able, the metal's got enough thickness in it, I might be able to actually grind that, because this is actually a bit thicker than the metal that's here, so yeah, it might be a bit of latitude to allow us to do that. But anyway, I think it'll be alright. I'll continue. Right, we're getting the picture now, so that's my little off cut there. The trusty old magnet is holding it nice and flush. You can see that. It's pretty good. It really is, as far as I'm concerned, not bad. I did put a bit of a bow in there, so just put it onto the anvil and just put a little bit of a bow, not much, just a tiny little one, just to try and follow the contour of the car. But you know, I think a blind man will be happy to see it. So what I'm going to do, because that's, you know, got to create that roll anyway, or that edge again. And of course the rust came all the way to here, unfortunately. So I'll just spot it in a few locations here. So I'll go here and here, and then just manipulate a little bit here and zot it again, and we'll come over to the other side then and have a look. And once I've got about half a dozen spots in it, I'll do a quick bit of footage, and from there I'll fill the whole thing in. Well, there she is, spotted into place. 2 pieces. I'm going to continue with this now. I'm happy to go, so I'll film again when I've actually finished the weld and the grind prior to paint.